Laapataa ladies, I don't even know where to begin with this one. This is one of the most offensive films I've seen in a very, very long time. And trust me when I say that. And well, offensive doesn't exactly mean technically awful in this context because the film is bad. It sucks ass. It is really fucking horrible to even look at. But all things considered, it's nowhere near as bad as some of the other shit that Bollywood has been putting out as of late, in spite of which the film manages to be utterly revolting and frustrating, somehow achieving to grow more and more insufferable with each proceeding cut. If there isn't such a thing as cinematic irresponsibility already, Lapata Ladies has simultaneously invented and perfected that very art form. In like this fucking rant video, whatever the fuck you would like to call this, I'm gonna explain that you really cannot find a film with more contradictions, either thematic or technical. Even if you genuinely wanted to, you could watch every film that has been released to this point, and this one would still end up being the most self-contradictory film out there. Every shot establishes something new, but then every other shot goes against all that has already been established. The first scene is a really good demonstration of what I just mentioned. Since we open with a shot of some fucking hut, I don't know, भाई कुछ तो भाई झोपड़ी है कुछ तो I don't know, like it's like off white color की, like off white, off blue. I don't remember. I'm not a fucking design kid, but yeah, it opens with a shot of a hut, right? And there's like some wedding music playing, like there's wedding festivities going on, which quickly eases us into the rural, very traditionalist, pardon me, setting of the film. It's the first shot and it's like 3 seconds, but it gets the job done. It completely eases you into the setting of the film. The next shot, which the film abruptly cuts to, is that of a terrified young woman who is currently getting married, and well, she looks afraid of that very fact. My question is, if the message of the scene is fear, and if it's supposed to unsettle the viewer, why did the opening shot have to ease us into the environment of the film? Just imagine if the film were to have opened with the claustrophobic close up of the terrified young woman. Like, just imagine how much more terrifying that would have been. It's not even like the opening shot creates a false sense of comfort or seclusion for the viewer, only to be interrupted by chaos. It's like 3 seconds of some hut, yet again. So it's just like any other establishing shot, rather than just like being a very like calm opening credit scene where like it's like far off into the distance and there's like music playing, which like quickly tells you that like this movie takes place in a village and it's really comforting, it's really alluring, until all of that is broken by that shot of pool. It's just a random establishing shot, and then it cuts to a shot which would have been a better shot to open the film with, you fucking retards. So yeah, the film should have either opened straight up with the shot of pool, or it should have began with a bunch of silent shots, or just like one lingering shot with maybe some calm music playing, maybe. But again, it just goes for this really weird middle ground, which takes away from the messaging that the film could have had from the very beginning. While this is a completely valid critique, all things considered, irresponsible? Again, this isn't enough to call the film irresponsible, you might claim. The simple fact aside that the film has no idea how to handle editing, which doesn't contradict its own messaging, it's made doubly irresponsible by the fact that it kind of ends up underplaying both real life issues and the artistic power of cinema. The artistic or the technical irresponsibility of this film lies in the fact that it completely misuses cinematic tools to manipulate the audience. The film has technically decent jokes, and I'd say that at least 4 out of 10 punchlines in like uh, the film you can't really see coming. My issue was that these admittedly original and somewhat striking punchlines at times, which really do, make you think about some other shit, are completely ruined either at the moment of delivery, my bad, or pretty much immediately before it because of music. Music in cinema is a slippery slope, and music in general is something I love. Music is something I can talk about for hours and hours and hours. Music is something I can talk about for longer than any and all of my friends combined. And yet I generally do prefer it when films have zero music in them, because this is fucking weird. Every single joke in this movie is accompanied by some or the other kind of musical cue, and if that isn't a fucking technical irresponsibility at work, I don't know what is. And hey, I'm just talking about the jokes right now. If I were to talk about all of the melodramatic bullshit music in this movie, which I am going to talk about, by the way, just hold on, we would be here for like 10 hours if I was really to list every single example of that and just rant about it for as long as I genuinely want to. The overwhelming amount of music in this film just makes the genuinely good jokes even hard, just genuinely hard to laugh at, the bad jokes even more insufferable, and it creates a kind of well, playing musical cues in a comedy or just any film, indicating when you're supposed to laugh, when you're supposed to feel sad, when you're supposed to have a moment of levity, when you're supposed to take things seriously. It creates a kind of black and white, how do I say this, morality. Really, morality is the best word to use here. And well, for a comedy like this, a film that deals with social situations and social constructs which harm people, a black and white morality, a black and white outlook of the world is not exactly helpful. And a black and white execution of your messaging, even less so. It tells you, as the viewer, what is objectively absurd enough to laugh at and what isn't, which severely ends up restricting one's experiences with the film. Comedy, which I'm going to explain right now, is all about stretching. Stretching concepts, performances, you name it, till their breaking point. Laapataa ladies, though, and well, really, to be fair, every other comedy to have ever used music in this manipulative way fails to recognize that every individual audience member has a different point of breaking. Every individual in there is a separate point at which things stop being funny for them or become too serious to laugh at, or maybe they have a different point where things actually are absurd enough to begin laughing at, whatever. What the fuck will you achieve by attempting to enforce the same standards of laughing or crying onto everyone in the fucking audience? Isn't the point of this film to fucking show that there's a fucking fine line between what is like genuinely fucking absurd and what is completely just inhumane and fucking unacceptable. What the fuck is my pronunciation up to right now? Yeah, I haven't had a lot of water today, so yeah, my mouth is kind of dry and I'm like fucking up. I'm like a spitty slurry mess usually anyway, but right now I'm just a little bit worse. But yes, it's just fucking confusing. Why the fuck would you use music and draw clear lines between what is funny, what isn't, what is serious, and what isn't? When the best thing to do with a social issue drama like this is to let the audience confront themselves regarding what is funny and what is not. Because well, once you do audience that once you do establish that whole pattern with the audience of like escalating things till they get absurd, it's going to become a lot less challenging to decide when you're not supposed to laugh, when the film is telling you when things are too serious to laugh at. It's just fucking absurd, and it's confusing as to why such a serious film, I mean, and a film which concerns itself with so many seriously ethical and moral dilemmas, would tell you outright when to stop laughing and when to start laughing. It is genuinely completely unacceptable for me. And I'm not even fucking done with my bullshit notes yet. Where the fuck was I, by the way, speaking of these notes? So, yeah, the best thing to do with a social issue drama like this is to let the audience confront themselves regarding what is funny or not. So, don't play any fucking music at all. But if you really want to play music, if you really want this film to be a commercial success because of music, just pull a fucking complete 180, pull a Clockwork Orange, pull a Reservoir Dogs, pull a Funny Games, and play music during the most heinous fucking scenes as well. Play music when there's some horrible fucked up shit going on screen, because that would fucking fulfill your shitty Bollywood music quota for sure. And it would also fucking be a morally challenging decision. Because then, in the third act, when things are completely off the rails, instead of manipulating you into feeling bad because of the lack of music cues, or well, the replacement of whimsical music cues with serious music cues, you would actually feel challenged because equally whimsical music is playing during things that you now deem to be fucking irredeemable. I don't understand why a film that's clearly supposed to be challenging you is putting you in such comforting positions. But hey, that's not even my last fucking critique of the fucking music in this film. What I really want to end off this section of the video by saying is the music isn't even fucking good. It's way too obvious, lyrically speaking. It's way too lacking in production and instrumentation, sonically speaking. And it feels fucking metropolitan. If you, like, did not tell someone that this movie takes place in, like, fucking 2002, they would not be able to tell because the songs sound like they were released yesterday. Furthermore, you could ask someone to listen to the soundtrack without knowing a thing about the film, and they'd say, hey, that sounds like a pretty good modern love story set in fucking Mumbai about some Punekari girl falling in love with a Mumbaikar boy. They would never fucking understand that this is a fundamentally rural film, that this is a movie that takes place in some fictional made up village, because the soundtrack, it is trying to enforce things that the director wants to be enforced onto the audience, but it doesn't even enforce things the right way. So it's doubly pointless, and the music has zero reason to exist. While we seriously are on the topic of music, I know I said that I was gonna end things with that fucking comment I just made, but fuck it. While we are talking about it, I just like to say the film kind of decimates every possible, like, level of, like, emotional seriousness it could have by using fucking music. Because, well, let's talk about Pool, the terrified young woman, the, like, just the fucking thing I called her 5 times in a row. Pool is, well, allegedly she has chemistry with the fucking guy, fucking Spursh or whatever fuck bullshit name he has. Well, no, Spursh is the actor, right? The character is something else. I wouldn't fucking know. He has no character. He isn't written to have any kind of character. He doesn't even have a fucking arc. But, well, I'm getting a bit too ahead of myself. When I say that Pool allegedly has chemistry with her husband, I say that because nowhere does the film actually show us their dynamic. It begs us to believe that their love is real without showing us any instance of it, which is fucking problematic when you're dealing with a subject matter like this. Now, this is still not the worst thing that the film does in this regard, as loving one's husband for no reason is something that internalized misogyny has practically ingrained into the minds of our women. My problem lies not in just indulging in it, but in justifying it and encouraging her love, since it's not even off screen in, like, a clever way, where, like, oh, the fact that she loves her husband but for no reason at all kind of forces you to think about, hey, is this love at all, or is, like, fucking monogamy, or and, like, institutions of marriage, like, are they just ruining a woman into, like, deluding herself into falling in love with a guy? This is fucking interesting. It clearly insists that there is love, and it justifies and it encourages that love, which we have no reason to believe that that love even fucking exists beyond the most superficial, hey, I love you flashback, or the most bullshit manipulative music cues, which, by the way, still don't develop any chemistry. Do they fucking love each other? What fucking movie did they watch? What movies do they like watching? Who is their favorite, like, mutual music artist that they happen to enjoy? What fucking food do they both enjoy? We don't know any of this bullshit, and yet you are insisting on the audience to just believe in their love for 2 fucking seconds. I can't fucking take this seriously. I genuinely have no reason to take this as seriously as the film wants me to take it. But fuck off. By the end, Pool doesn't even leave her husband or grow out of her love with him. She simply stays. And yet again, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with Pool staying. But the fact that you are at once demanding us to believe that there is love between them, And secondly, not showing us any reasons or causations for that love. And thirdly, ending the film with this fucking declaration of love without any justifications whatsoever. It kind of just makes Poole look like the most internally misogynistic asshole in the fucking world. Come on, like, if their love was genuine and if you did want us to believe in it, the film should have had at least like a 10-minute conversation scene just full of banter, right? Right before their marriage or whatever the fuck, right before their wedding. I mean, or hell, just fucking, if she really is trying to end, back up with her husband, show us her miserable reality after the fact. Show us that there was no love. Show us that there was nothing to really go back to, and that she's just a fucking stupid little housewife now. I don't understand why, yet again, the film went for some bullshit middle ground. Well, I understand why it went for it. It's for commercial reasons. It's for a film to be challenging as an aesthetic, but not challenging in reality, because then people might actually have conflicting thoughts about our movie, and we wouldn't want that now, fucking would we? Yet again, for the third time in a row, I must clarify I have nothing against what the film shows, but the question of responsibility remains throughout. The film aptly shows her internalized misogyny and dependence on her husband, but then indulges in that very fact and glorifies all of it. Every fucking, even like the smallest semblance of responsibility is just lost then and there. The music yet again insists on their dynamic as being something that you should fucking root for when you have absolutely no reason in the world to actually be in favor of it. I just mean reasons more than the cinematic equivalent of he said, she said, I mean, because that is as good of a reason as this film is willing to give you. And I genuinely wish that was like all of the irresponsibility that this film had, because then this fucking recording would be over, but it's not. It's fucking not. It's somehow fucking worse. I'm afraid there is one more thing I've got to talk about. Ravi Kishan. Now, I am all for separating the art from the artist, so I'm not gonna mention like the fact that Ravi Kishan is like a BJP asshole, uh, and the fact that I don't get why the filmmakers hired him for this. But yeah, from his very first scene, he is set up as a pretty misogynistic asshole. Scratch that, he's not even misogynistic. He just hates every gender equally. And it doesn't matter what gender you are, he will take all of your money from you and he will make your mom sing to get you out of jail. And yeah, whatever the fuck. He's just a plain old asshole, simple as. So when he locks up Jaya, you expect there to be some, you guys might not know this word if you like this movie, consequences. There might be consequences. Instead, he does a quick 180 the moment Jaya's husband shows up, and it's so convenient. He just gets the husband and he's like, "Ara, ara, ara, beta, ara, 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 beta, ara, रुको, ara, beta, ara, ara, हम तो आपके बीबी, ara, हम तो आपकी बीबी को ला देता, अरे आप इधर पे रुको, अरे आप बैठो, अरे कुछ टेंशन मत लो, अरे अरे हम बीबी को लाता, अरे आप टेंशन क्यों ले रहे हो?" And then Jaya is crying. She's like all fucked up. She looks depressed. And then he's like, "अरे अरे चले जाओ ना बेटा, अरे चले जाओ अरे बेटा." And then he's like, "Oh, hold up, wait a second. I just wanted to close the fucking case." He does a quick 180 and then he turns into the most feminist guy in fucking Uttar Pradesh. Jesus fucking Christ, what the fuck, dude? He just completely ends up shielding our young fledgling. And what the fuck? I am sorry, but what the fuck? Am I seriously to believe that his thoroughly irredeemable and corrupt character is the type to protect people as long as it's morally justifiable and doesn't have any material benefits for him? What the fuck? I'm sorry, but turning your film into fucking propaganda only to deal with a loose thread is the definition of irresponsibility, cinematic or not. It's perhaps not as irresponsible as not drinking a glass of water before this video, but hey, it's still up there in terms of the most irresponsible shit that I've ever fucking seen in any film. Another thing I hate about his character, and this is nowhere near as bad nor as serious in comparison, but it's still a very valid critique, is whenever levity is needed, he's like, "अरे अरे हम अरे I understand अरे हम call कर देंगे अरे आप इतना कंसर्न मत लीजिए. He's clearly chewing on fucking gutka, right? Amazing shit. But when the film demands shit be taken seriously, he just isn't chewing on gutka anymore. I'm sorry, do you know how North Indians work? And secondly, what the actual fuck? You know that is a more like, having him chewing gutka when he's saying the most serious and dubious shit, or when some really fucked up things are going on. Him chewing gutka in those moments would be more of a testament to his character because, hey, I find him scary because even though he's doing something fucking comedic and absurd, I am still fucking shit scared of him. He's just that good of a character. But no, fuck that. Who would want nuance in a Bollywood social drama about marriage? Either way, the point is that this film ends up glorifying a cop who, even counting the fictional character we're dealing with, would not have acted the way he did. Seriously, Jaya in that prison cell would have been raped 5 times by everyone in there, the woman officer included. Dude, this takes place in some fictional North Indian place, but I just know for a fact that is exactly what would have happened if this story was real. But yeah, the only consistent thing throughout this film is inconsistency, which is signified best through the cop yet again. The film cannot decide if it needs him to be a comedic relief or an absolutely irredeemable asshole of a character who accepts bribes and beats people up for no reason. A money hungry lunatic or a raging feminist working to enrich the lives of women around him. It handles its characters with just as little responsibility as it does its themes and cinematic capabilities. I suppose that is, what I would like to use as, the kind of uh, segue to really what the point of this video is. Sure, I hate Laapataa ladies, but I could have said these exact same things about any other social awareness Bollywood drama. But there was something particularly special about this one that I just really have to say right now. The film, if it wanted to be an absurd comedy, would fucking fail due to abandoning the character of the policeman and all of that shit. If it wanted to be a drama, it would fail just as hard, if not more. Knowing how fucked up the police in the north is, Jaya would have gone through a lot of shit in that like one night that she spent in there alone. Was it even a night? It was just like a few hours. I don't know. I don't remember enough. But yes, even if it wanted to be an absurd comedy through and through without a hint of seriousness at all, it would have failed because of egregious music, fucked up characters, and all of that. If it wanted to be a serious drama, it would have failed. Let's face it, even more because nothing in this movie actually makes sense or feels like it takes place on planet fucking Earth. What makes the film worse is it wants to be the best of both worlds and it ends up being the worst of both worlds. But hey, that's not really the point I'm trying to make. There is no justifiable explanation for any of the big changes that the film makes because, well, let me just tell it to you this way. To sum everything up, Poole had an immensely tricky arc to both set up and end. I mean, the whole point of like, do I abandon him? Do I stay with him? Do I become independent? Do I just stay? What do I do? As such, the setting up of her romance was entirely dependent on shitty music being played in the most manipulative manner imaginable. The ending of her arc, though, was rushed and hardly felt challenging. By the end, even though she was supposed to have learned something, it hardly felt as if her character had moved beyond the superficial level of change. Jaya's whole situation was actually interesting up until the resolution, wherein the policeman simply does a fucking complete 180. And yeah, both the central and equally as tough arcs required so much legwork to set up to both set up and pay off that the filmmakers decided to go for the worst, most cheesy ways out. Poole's resolution came through obeying her love for her husband, which we don't even fucking know of. We don't even know if that love is real. And Jaya's ending was a quite literal cop out. The penultimate point which I want to make, and this is where the video will end, is just notice how often the easy ways out in art always end up reaffirming the values of the status quo. The artists find these easy solutions as being the most accessible and widely applicable precisely because they are being continually enforced by capital as it exists anyway in all its forms. Pool's shitty ending only ends up regurgitating misogynistic values of fucking internalized misogyny and loyalty to your husband, while Jaya's is amusingly naive political propaganda. Both of these issues, if you notice, come from the fact that the film can never really decide if it wants to be an absurd comedy, an absurd black comedy, or a nihilistic and entirely dramatic critique of misogyny in India. Is the cop to be a depiction of shitty Indian policemen, some fantastical element grounded in no level of reality? Or is he supposed to be like a fucking just weirdly realistic figure who you fucking hate? How about using both in the most convenient ways possible so as to help out our plot? Yeah, I don't think I have to explain much more further than that. Because to me, it feels like a lot of the thematic, well, I can apply the same logic to every other thematic implication in the film. It is as artistically unreliable as it is when it comes to its politics, the film, I mean. It is selectively progressive and conservative, much like the police officer, and how he selectively chooses good on screen. It's genuinely fucked up. I suppose that is where that is like I suppose what I'm gonna say right now is like the final paragraph that I'm gonna be reading out. Yes, it is. I could come up with a more cohesive, holistic conclusion, but well, since the film doesn't bother to do so, I'm not gonna either. But I also want to take this opportunity, this very open-ended opportunity, to confront you guys directly as an audience. I am much too autistic to make sense, much too tired to go on, and much too irritated to control myself. Instead, I shall like to encourage you guys to continue the themes of this video in your head. Think about how many artistic cop outs and easy ways out you may have seen are only seen as easy ways out due to perpetuating already existing values, whether they be political values or artistic ones. And with that out of the way, I love you guys so much and thank you for sitting through yet another 26-minute fucking rant. I swear to God, it's becoming like a pattern with my videos, but I don't even want them to be this long. They just end up being this long for no reason at all.